Hey everyone, I am back. It's Dr. Hammond here with your mental health moment. Thanks so much for tuning in today. I hope you've had an amazing week. Nonetheless, thanks so much for joining here. If you are new to Mental Health Moment, welcome. I'm here every Tuesday, 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, right here on Black Women Empowered Incorporated Facebook page, YouTube, and LinkedIn. And for those of you who join every single Tuesday, 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, welcome back. Let me know in the chat where you are tuning in from today. I am in the Tampa Bay area of Florida today, where I reside. Depending on the week, I'm usually in some other city, but today I am in the Tampa Bay area. Mental Health Moment is all about being the best version of who you are for yourself, so you can show up for yourself and show up for those around you. So welcome. So today I wanted to remind you all, because I don't know about you, but this time of year, where I feel like we're heading into the back to school season. Pretty soon we'll be back to the holidays, then it's the end of the year, and then we're celebrating a new year. It's crazy how the last couple of months really start to go. It just goes by so fast, it seems like. I know for myself personally, my son is starting back in school this week, so it's all about, again, back to school and just a change of schedule, not the summer schedule that we've had, all those sorts of things. So there's a lot of things that many of us are transitioning into, whether or not you have kids in school, but coming into the fall season here. So today, very quickly, I want to share a reminder for you all, because again, as I mentioned, we're heading into this busy, hectic season here. So it's really, really critically important for your mental health and for your wellness that you are taking the time to understand, really, as often as you can, but reassessing for yourself, what is it that brings you joy and what is it that brings you peace of mind. And the reason why I say that is because when you start to look at what those things are for you, and I'm sharing this with you personally and professionally, because I've been there, done that. I've been doing these things for many, many years. But when you start to continue to reassess, one day you might say, hey, you know what really brings me joy? Being around this particular person. Or for me, it's being in nature brings me joy, or just finding these peaceful places. When I travel and I'm often on the road, making sure to find some calming and peaceful places in the hectic chaos that we live in sometimes, right? So whatever you answer, what is it for you? Who is it, or what is it that brings you joy? What brings you peace? Go ahead and put it in the chat. And remember, though, what you say today doesn't have to be your forever statement. So the beginning of the next year, something may be going on in your life for the positive. You may be in a darker time. We don't know what the future holds, but nonetheless, you're allowed to change your mind, right? You're allowed to have different things. And sometimes, so what happened to me last week, you all, I was in South Bend, Indiana, and that is where Notre Dame, the campus is, one of the colleges in the U.S., for those of you outside of the U.S., but it's a pretty popular college. And nonetheless, I went to one of their cathedrals there because I was in the area. I was like, I like to explore when I'm in other cities. So I'm like, let me just look around. And so I went because how a colleague of mine was like, man, it's so beautiful in there. They got the stained glass windows. It's just a really beautiful space. I was like, oh, let me check it out. And by the way, for those of you who follow me on Instagram, I'm always documenting where I go, where I travel, the things I do for wellness, because it's really important to be doing different things that bring you peace and joy. It's a lot of hecticness, a lot of negativity online, a lot of fights. Y'all know what I'm talking about. Like, so much stuff happening. So we have to stay in our space, though, right? To be hopefully in a peaceful place most of the time. So anyhow, so I go into this cathedral. First of all, it is gorgeous. But what was interesting about that experience is as soon as I walked in, it was, the energy in there was amazingly peaceful. I was like, whoa, right? Like, so when you walk into this cathedral, they have like an area where they have like holy water. You can, say prayers or whatever it is you need to do. And for the record, Mental Health Moment is for every single religion, ethnicity, race, anything you believe in. So this has nothing to do with Christianity in particular. If that is what speaks to you, great. If it doesn't, great. It's definitely not the point of this story. But in that space, it was just so peaceful, and I could just feel my energy shift because actually last week there was a whole lot of things going on last week, and things get stressful, right? Like we all go through this, we get stressed. But in that moment, in that tour that I thought I was just taking of this beautiful space, it was so peaceful in there. And you could just feel, I just felt my body shift, just like getting to mentally a place of peace, physically a place of peace. I'm like, thank you, God, like just to calm down. So that's, I'm sharing that with you because again, there's certain places for you. The beach does that for me too. Like I said, spending time in nature, like taking some deep breaths, like those sort of things, looking at positive things on Instagram. There's a whole bunch of negativity, like I said, but being in, watching inspirational things or positive things, like those are things that give me peace, give me joy, right? Because I'm always trying to connect to that space. So again, for you, and let me know in the chat here, what is it for you, right? And again, we have to constantly, when it comes to mental health and wellness, we have to be in a self-awareness. And again, what you answer today may be different a couple months from now, maybe different a couple weeks from now, and that's completely okay. You're allowed to change. And again, you all know for yourselves. I can't tell you what that answer is because I don't know, but there are certain spaces and places that you go into where you feel so happy, and there's certain places, people, surroundings that you go into where you don't feel good. It may make you angry. It might make you irritable. It might make you anxious, right? And some of those places or spaces you can't necessarily always avoid, but if you're able to spend less time there, then that would be helpful, right? And for some of you, you may be in the workplace and you're like, man, I'm stressed out, right? But you can't, I mean, we're not saying don't go to work anymore, right? So don't necessarily avoid that, but there's certain things you can avoid. So if there's certain things that are triggering for you on social media, for example, you might need to unfollow that account, or you might need to unfollow that person or not look at their content or whatever it is, right? So certain things we can control and certain things we can't, but you have to also think about what is it in my surroundings that right now is toxic, and I need to spend less time with this person or place or situation, whatever it is. So ask yourself those two questions today. Silence is a very powerful tool, but honestly, sometimes it can be scary. And what I mean by that, and we talked about this in another mental health moment, but when you get into a place of silence sometimes and your thoughts are going and you may not be in the best mental place, those thoughts sometimes, I mean, you're just thinking of so much stuff and it's negative and it's why me, or why did this happen, or why did I do this, and all those sorts of things. And that's okay because that's normal. But the goal though, in that space is to work on quieting your mind, which can happen, right? You don't have to turn off all your thoughts, but quieting your mind and getting into a peaceful place. Because it's, again, very powerful to get into silence, to get into some form of meditation, even if it's for a short amount of time. Right? Excuse me. I always say start with a minute, just 60 seconds a day. Again, the reality is some of you, and that's okay. Some of you may be like, you know what? I don't even know right now. Like I may be in a really rough spot. I don't know what brings me joy. I don't know what brings me peace. Look, you all did amazing, right? Putting all that information in comments, look at some of those things. And maybe you're like, you know what? I need to try something different. And that's okay. Or you may say, I've tried a lot of things at home to bring me peace, but it's not working. And I'm so anxious, or I'm so depressed, or I'm struggling, however it is that you may be struggling mentally, then maybe you might need to reach out to a mental health professional, which is okay to do that, right? There's a lot of people who are trained, especially to help whatever it is that you're having difficulties adjusting to, if nothing you're doing at home is working, right? So there's a lot of different options. Cooking for me too, actually baking, just all sorts of things. I spend probably a little bit more time than I need to on Instagram watching these recipes of people baking things. That actually really got me through COVID as well when we were quarantined, because I get bored very easily. However, I baked so much stuff to the point where by the time I went to Publix, which is our local grocery store, they had run out of flour, probably because everyone else was at home baking too. So that kind of ended my everyday baking something new during the quarantine. But I do, yes, cooking and baking, great things for your mental health. Another thing I want to tell you, well, today when it comes to, again, checking in with yourself, what do you need? What brings you the peace and joy? Understand, do what works for you. I feel like that should be the title of my next book. But I say that because you might even look at this list and you're like, man, I would never do this. I would never do that. I don't want to do this. That doesn't work for me. Then don't do those things. Or if your mother, sister, brother, whoever else does something else and like, man, you should really try such and such with me, and you don't want to, then don't, right? But instead do what works for you. Do what brings you the peace and the joy, right? But sometimes what brings you joy, what brings you peace, it might be something that only has to do with you. So let's say you were by yourself, lake, river, ocean, whatever nature place you can be in by yourself. That might be just like a you moment. But also sometimes what can bring you a lot of joy and a lot of peace is helping someone else, right? So maybe someone else is involved and there's some random act of kindness or something small, even a small deed that, well, you think is small, but is a really big deal to someone else, that could bring you joy and peace, right? Like there's a lot of different ways that this looks like, which is why I'm so happy you guys are putting this in the chat, because it really depends. It depends, right? It depends on what works for you. What you are listening to, what you are watching on a daily basis in your social media feeds, really, really important. Now, I'm not saying, I'll let you decide for you, but I'm not saying necessarily you have to block out everything and not know anything that's going on. There's plenty of negativity, plenty of news stories. I feel like every time I look at the news, it's something negative. It seems like, however, in the midst of that, when you choose to the inspirational content, because there's a lot of good inspirational content out there, when you choose the motivating content, when you choose the things that lift you up, the things that make you happy, when you're listening to that type of thing, when you're watching that, that's really, really critical for your mental health, you all. Very critical. So I'm glad you brought that up. If you are in the US, try the American Psychological Association, apa.org. You can go on there, let them know your zip code, and to try to find someone in your area. I will say though, unfortunately, when it comes to ethnic minorities in mental health, or particularly psychologists, I should say, there's only like 3 to 4%, unfortunately, in the US. So it can be really difficult sometimes to find that person. However, again, depending on where you live, there's also a lot of virtual options, so that if you want to do the telehealth route, so that you can find someone still in your state or someone that's licensed in your state, to provide you care. But if you can't find anyone, you can also reach out, drnikishahammond.com, or any social media platform. Just send me a quick message. Let me know where you live. And if I know someone in the area, I'll definitely try my best to connect you with them as well. But yes, you're not alone. But there's still hope. What you're doing either as soon as you wake up in the morning or right before you go to sleep, really, really important times when you think about your mental health, when you think about your wellness. Some of you may know, I think I told you all this last year, but last year I really started being very intentional when I wake up in the morning, what I'm doing, my gratitude practice. Now I'm doing my devotional. Like, what am I doing as soon as I wake up? Because I want to set the tone for my entire day. And now the same thing before I go to bed, I'm pretty intentional. Like, what am I watching? What am I listening to? How do I want to go to sleep, right? Like, what do I want in my brain, right? When I'm going to sleep, when I'm dreaming, or those types of things. So that's really good. Really, really two important times, excuse me, on the day. So step one is awareness. When it comes to mental health, what do you need? What brings you joy and peace? And then step two is, as often as you can, doing your best to be, again, in those spaces, doing those activities, seeing those people, or however you can. Some things, again, of course, you may not be able to do every single day. Some of you said grandkids or great grandkids or whatnot, you might not be near them, right? So you might not be able to physically see them every day, but you might be able to talk to them often, or you might be able to, FaceTime, or whatever it is and in whatever way you can connect with those individuals that bring you the joy. The same thing with activities. Sometimes we get busy, and that's okay. It's really okay. But it's always important to go back as often as you can to those type of activities. As I close out here today, because the support system too is so, so important when it comes to your mental health. So like you just said, talking with your sister circle or whoever is in your circle. And when I say your circle, I mean your circle of supporters, right? Your cheerleaders, the people that are that are positive in your life, the people that are cheering you on, the people that want you to do well, that circle, right? How often are you connecting with those people? Really, really important. So what I want to leave you with today is to remember you absolutely have an opportunity, no matter what stage, season of your life. Again, you could be in the best season of your life, extremely happy. You could be, hopefully not, but maybe in a darker time, and that's okay. It doesn't always rain forever, right? But it could be in a darker time or somewhere in between. But no matter what stage you're in right now, because again, these are stages and phases of our lives, it's so important to always put your mental health first, to always work on getting back to a place, a mental place of joy, of happiness, of peace of mind. Very important, not just for your mental health, but this affects your physical health as well, right? If you're in your head and you're stressed out and you're worrying and you're depressed and you're anxious, all those types of things, they also affect your physical health as well, right? So there's a benefit of working on our mental wellness. So if you all need me at any time, you can always reach out, drnikishahammond.com. For those of you who are listening to the YouTube replay of this, be sure to like and subscribe the video. Well, subscribe to the page and like the video and share. You can also reach me on Instagram, dr.hammond, or LinkedIn, Facebook, Twitter, or any other social media platform. I'm usually sharing some type of social media or some type of mental health help, if you will, and some resources on social media. So be sure to connect on there as well. Lastly, before I forget, before I hop off here, let me check the date. So make sure I'm telling you the right date. Okay, Friday, August 18th. If you are in the Dallas area, and this is on my website, drnikishahammond.com. But if you're in the Dallas area, I will be doing a morning keynote at the Waxahachie Civic Center that morning, Friday, August 18th. So all the details to register are on drnikishahammond.com. You can register. It's absolutely free. It's a whole wellness day. And again, I'll be keynoting in the morning. I'm super excited because you all know I love wellness, anything related to mental health. But be sure to register on there. Would love to see you. And send me a message also on social media if you're able to attend. And that is about it. So I will see you all next Tuesday right here on Black Women Empowered Incorporated Facebook page, YouTube, and LinkedIn. Have a great week, you all. Take care of yourselves, and I'll see you all next week. Bye, guys.